Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about several micro EDC lights that I've been using. We have the Nitecore TIki. This is a unique light with several different LEDs inside of it. A regular thrower LED, a high CRI LED, and a UV LED. It's also micro USB rechargeable and waterproof, and is highly functional and useful. Next up is the MecArmy X2S. This is a stainless steel 2-mode outputting light with also a 10180 replaceable battery, and it's also micro USB rechargeable. Next up is the Olight I102 EOS, the micro rechargeable version of the I102 EOS line from Olight. This features 2 modes as well, a low and a high, and it's also rechargeable via the micro USB port. It's one of the smallest lights on the table. Next to it we have the I102 Pro, and that is a USB-C rechargeable version of the I102 EOS, and it also features an upgraded LED as well as a little bit longer running times. It's slightly bigger than the I102 EOS. Next to it we have the anniversary model. This is a more neutral tone, neutral tint color of the I102 Pro. And then next to that we have the Cyansky M2 rechargeable light. This is the light with the biggest throw on the table. It's also the shortest light, but also the fattest light on the table as well. It features several different modes, and it also has a micro recharging port on it as well. Finally, last but not least, we have the Nitecore NU 05. This is a USB-C rechargeable light that can be used as a headlamp, as a clip-on to MOLLE, PALS webbing, or as an individual light. Features several different modes and LEDs in it, including red LEDs and white LEDs. So here on the table you can see all the lights here for size comparison. We have the Nitecore TIki, the MecArmy X2S, the Olight I102 EOS, the Olight I102 Pro, and the Olight Anniversary Edition here, and the Cyansky M2, and the Nitecore NU 05. We go with micro USB rechargeable lights because they are convenient to use in the field. They're small enough. They do have internal batteries that you can't replace, which is a con. However, some of them you can replace the battery, more specifically speaking the MecArmy X2S, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go over some of the lights on the table here. First, we have the Nitecore TIki. This is a great light because it has several different modes. To access the modes, you click several times for the UI. 1, 2. We get a low mode for the primary LED, a medium mode, a more higher mode, and a turbo mode. And to turn off, you simply hold down and click once. This is a very useful light for many different operations in field. It's one of my favorite micro lights that they have out in the market, other than the X2S here and the Nitecore NU 05. And Nitecore makes some pretty interesting technologies when it comes to lights, in my opinion. We also have access to 2 separate LEDs here. So if we click 3 times, we can access the UV light here, which is a nice, powerful UV light. When we don't have all the lights shining, you can see pretty well with that. And we can rotate to the high CRI light. This is a nice little light because it allows you to see a nice diffused beam. You can use it as a table light if you want it to, and it lasts for a fairly decent amount of time. Then we have another mode, which is a beaconing mode. So you can attach this to your backpack. And I've done this before when I've been walking in the dark or doing my night walks around the lake, around my local area. I've had this and several other lighting elements, and this provides a good signaling method for finding things. You could also attach this to your dog's collar if you wanted to, if you're dog walking, and you could be able to see them at night at least. And then it rotates back to the UV light here. Turn off, you hold down once, and you are finished with the UI. Very simple, very basic, very straightforward. The TIki is a great model. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the multiple modes. I have this in my micro EDC kit. The micro USB port is down here. It's covered by this rubber gasket, which you take off, charge it up, and then put it back on. And it comes with this nice little clip thing and a key ring here on the outside. They do make several different models of the Nitecore TIki. This comes in around about $22, $23 online. Definitely worth the price in my opinion. I do enjoy this a lot. They make a glow-in-the-dark version of this as well. And they do offer slightly different LED variants in the Nitecore TIki as well. Next up is one of my favorite general purpose EDC lights, and this is the MecArmy X2S. They do sell an aluminum version, the MecArmy X4S. The X2S here is a stainless steel version, and they do sell copper and I believe a titanium version of this light. It's a pill light with a replaceable 10180 battery. It has two different modes, and it has a turn switch activation instead of a press button switch activation. And as you can see, we have just two modes for the LED, and that is it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, very easy to manipulate, and a really nice size, as well as good quality finish, fit and finish for the stainless steel version at least. And we can see the USB charge port here. It's a captive cover here so it doesn't get lost. Simply slide that back on and you're ready to go after charging. And if you want to access the battery to replace it, simply access the rear capsule here, and you will see the access to the 10180 battery in here. It's about 100 milliamp hour battery capacity in that battery. Now, MecArmy does make a additional premium feature for this particular light. It's sort of a combination tool that features another capsule that goes onto this, as well as a small little peanut lighter that goes into this unit. So it is part of a modular set they do sell. It's kind of hard to find nowadays, but it does cost quite a few pennies. However, it is a nice little EDC light to carry. So that is the MecArmy X2S, one of the only replaceable battery operated lights with a rechargeable port on the table here. Next up, we have some really popular options for micro EDC lights, and some of my favorite because of the price point. You can usually find these for a very low price on the Olight sites, especially during the holidays coming up. You can find some of these newer models for about $5.42 on a sale. So that is always something to consider. This is the i102 EOS. This is the second version of the i102 EOS. And the difference between the second version and the first is that this captive cover here used to come off completely, exposing the other parts of the light. They changed that recently so that this does not come off as easily. Now, this is also a two-mode operational light, much like the X2S. And we have a similar beam profile and color temperature LED inside of it. My guess is the TRR reflective optic and the LED is pretty much the same as all these other pill lights, with the exception of a few on the table. And again, you unscrew it to access the micro USB charging port here and simply close it up. You cannot exchange the battery out of this, so once the battery dies, you no longer have a light. That is the only drawback to some of the Olights that we have on the table and the Nitecore lights. Overall, it's the smallest light in terms of the length and the thickness profile, and it makes a good light to fit into small micro EDC kits. So if you're looking for a small pill light, this would be the one to get if you can find it still. Moving on to the i102 Pro from Olight. These lights are a little bit more common now. They're a little bit bigger than the i102 Pro EOS, and that is because they have a slightly bigger battery inside, so it lends itself to longer run times, especially on the high. And it also is a USB-C rechargeable light. Much like the i102 EOS, it's similar in its UI methods. It's simple turn switch based, again for the low and also for the high. And it outputs a little bit more lumens, and you can see a little bit on the table that does shine a little bit more out. So that is the upgraded version of the i102 EOS at the expense of weight and size. And once again, the port here is the USB-C port, and the cap top is captive along with a spring, which is kind of nice to have. Next to it is a very similarly made light, except that this has a more neutral white color. It's USB-C rechargeable again. It functions on the same battery and principles as the i102 Pro, except this is the anniversary edition. So if we shine both lights on the table here very briefly, you guys can see the difference in the color temperatures. So we have a little bit of a less output on the right. However, it is a warmer color than the light on the right. Let's dial this back down so you can kind of see it a little bit on the camera. So you can kind of see the modes here. I don't know how well that comes out on the camera. However, this does have a warmer tint. So if you're looking for a slightly warmer tint, this is an option for you if you don't like bluer or cooler looking lights. Next up is a unique light out of the bunch. This one has the longest throw and several different modes, and has a micro USB recharging port with a cover at the back here, a gasket. It comes with this little key ring lanyard, and the button is on the back here to access, so you simply hold down, and we're in low mode. This has a smooth peel reflector with the AR coated glass lens, and if you push this button, it'll rotate and cycle through 3 different main modes. And once again, this has the biggest thrower of all these here. This is a focused beam, and turn off, you simply hold down once again. And if you hold down long enough, you can get to the strobe mode. I don't know how practical that is for a small EDC light. However, you do have access to that mode as well. This also is a pretty lightweight light. It's very short compared to the others. However, it is a little bit thicker. Last but not least, we have the Nitecore NU 05. Now this comes with a optional headband unit that you can get, or you can get just the base model without the headband. Basically, you get this square piece of plastic with LEDs and a battery inside of it, and it has attachment points in the rear here to attach to a band or your Molly Pals webbing or whatever you want to attach this to. And to activate, you can also lock this out and lock it and unlock it. So we have it unlocked right now, and you simply push a button and you scroll through the different modes here. We have blinking modes, we have strobe modes, we have blinking white LEDs, and we have a constant white LED on, and it turns off after that cycle. So you have several different LED modes in here for signaling purposes, which does come in handy. I personally use the white LEDs on. They are diffuse beam, so they're not a focus beam like much of these other lights here. However, it does lend itself to a unique size, so if you have a size constraint in your EDC kit, this one might actually fit, being a more square type of light. Now to lock this one out, you simply put it on and you would push and hold the button, and it's now locked out. And when you go to push the button, it'll show you a red lockout symbol. So a fairly nice light, and the only one on the table that you can actually use as a headlamp pretty easily with the included accessory, the headband here. I do want to mention a honorable small EDC light on the Victorinox Huntsman. This is not a rechargeable light and normally wouldn't be in the lineup here, but it is worth mentioning that this does run on coin cell batteries and outputs a small amount of light, so it does come in handy. So this is something, if you're into carrying a tool with pretty much everything in one. This has a light in it, has a cutting tool, has a pen in it as well, and I do have a fire starting element in the Huntsman. So this might be an option for you to look into, although it's not a micro tool per se. It does have a micro light installed on the actual tool, although we don't want to include it necessarily with this lineup because this is mainly focused on rechargeable lights that are micro EDC type of lights. So that's all I have to say about all these lights here. I thought I'd show you guys the kind of collection I'm running and using. What are you guys using, and what do you recommend if it's going to be a micro EDC type of light? What do you carry in your kits, basically? Let me know. And once again, thank you for watching, and take care.